Now, we've got a joint presentation from Chris and myself, understanding the business case, speaking about the commercial aspects of things, and Chris will lead off on that.
Thank you. Oh, you're leaving, okay. Right, well, we've seen all sorts of things, and obviously with the upcoming changes that are required, you're probably going to choose to do something about your lighting. The biggest issue is going to be really whether you, or one of the first issues is going to be whether you currently own or whether you lease your existing premises. Obviously, if you own your existing premises, you've got a lot more flexibility to do whatever you want to get things done, and you may be able to look at return on investments or concepts that are going to last beyond the term of the lease. If you lease your premises, I mean, it's probably going to involve discussions with your landlord, but again, when you come to renewing your lease, it may be something that you can discuss with the landlord as to whether he can do something to help or even replace the lighting, etc. That way. And either way, doing something with your lighting, it may be the case that the landlord's not interested, but again, replacing your lighting, there will be an energy saving. There may still be a good business case for doing it just based on your normal financial outgoings. Sorry, I should be one slide ahead. The other thing to consider, and we haven't really talked about it too much, Brian's just talked about it, a circular economy, is the old fittings, what happens end of life, end of lease or whatever. Again, that's something that's yet to really be handled in New Zealand. Recycling of lighting products is difficult at the moment and it's expensive, but no doubt that in the future that is going to be something that's going to come in as a financial burden, either for yourself or for the landlord. So I think there's still a lot of discussions to be had. Just flicking on, if you're the, as I said, if you are the owner of the building, the capital purchase model is probably going to be where you're going to go and buy the lights. But there is other things evolving around the world. There's not a lot of it happening in New Zealand, but this term you'll see if you do, and you're geeky enough to read overseas blogs or whatever, lighting as a service, where a third-party provider actually provides the light fittings to you, just leases them to you, and basically pay a monthly fee for your lights, just like you do for your photocopier or something else. Lighting as a service would normally be completely managed by the third party, and then they would provide maintenance and other things, and even guarantee a level of lighting service. It's not popular in New Zealand yet, even as a concept, I don't think, for interior lighting, but it is being used by councils and that for exterior lighting, for roadways and things like that, where its application may look a little bit more obvious. But certainly lighting as a service, I think, is a future, because if a person has set themselves up, or if a company exists that is a provider of lighting as a service, they have more capabilities of rehandling those fittings, remanufacturing those fittings, and truly getting involved in that circular economy. So I think it is a model that is good for our future, but it's something you've yet to see. And again, using the photocopier analogy, that is exactly what happens to them. They take the photocopiers back, they remanufacture them, they replace the bits and pieces, and reutilize a lot of those components that otherwise would have gone to landfill. I don't know, Brian, have you got anything else to say on that? Or next. Yeah, you're next. Yeah, but say Brian's going to talk to you about the whole of life economics, but yeah. Has that changed? No, it hasn't changed. Yep. That's you? Yep. Oh, no. Yep, that's me. Yep. Yep.
Whichever is the first one.
This one, yep.
Okay. Talking about, I need my glasses for this, economic return on investment assessment for lighting systems. This is the business case. We get down to the essence of how we justify financially an upgrade to LED smart controls, and we need to talk about the hard cold economics to do that. Of course, we're aiming for energy and low carbon outcomes, but the dollars have to stack up also. So whole of life economics is vital. We've got to assess economic performance over the whole lifespan of the system, be it say 10 years for an office building typically, maybe 15, more like 20 for an outdoor lighting system, a car park or something along those of that nature. So that's how we need to look at the economics, not just the first cost, not just who is cheapest on day one. We need to include all relevant operating costs and energy and carbon costs and benefits over that time scale. So make sure all of these aspects, which could be otherwise treated as externalities, internalize them, bring them in, so have a true reflection of what the total costs and benefits actually are. A net present value financial model is required in order to establish what the true financial outcomes are. I won't go into details about that. As a financial technique, taking into account the time value of money to get a true estimation of, a true calculation, I should say, of what the economic impact is over that life, and include all service, maintenance, upgrades required over life, which sounds obvious, but it's frequently not done. And quantify those inputs based on a standardized lighting design approach. When one is procuring a lighting system for an office building, public building, public institution, roadway, whatever, you are not just buying hardware, you're not just buying widgets. You're doing what that hardware does, and it's important to use a design-based approach. I don't mean product design, I mean application design, lighting design to an ASNZS, ISO, European standard, or whatever, or better. Because as Chris mentioned earlier, standards are a minimum standard, minimum acceptable. It doesn't necessarily mean they're good or great in terms of an outcome. So don't necessarily think that a standardized design is the target, it is the minimum in actual fact. Where can we get some help from? What models can we use to assist us in this task for procurement, appropriate procurement and tendering? The European Commission once again comes up. They have what they call a GPP scheme, Green Public Procurement, and there's some excellent reference material in there for building infrastructure and for lighting. They're just web links on there that you may wish to look at later, but life cycle costing, life cycle impacts, there is some excellent material there. So we as Kiwis are not reinventing the wheel. There is some excellent resources available and well proved. What you'll need as a procurer will be a good procurement technical specification, the technical basis on which you are going out to the marketplace to ask them to respond. And that should be application based, based on output. It should not be prescriptive, saying what the input should be, and it should be, once again, I'm repeating myself, but I like to call it reinforcement, is it's not about the product, it's about what about the products can do or will do. And then a tender scoring method will need to be developed, a clear and transparent performance and scoring methodology to account for all externalities, maintenance, consumables, etc., including end of life, because usually there's a cost of appropriate end of life treatment, and it shouldn't be externalized by just saying we toss it in landfill. And use a quantitative scoring, rating and ranking schedule. It's possible, not just aspirational. And finally, your tender review panel, the people around the table reviewing the tenders from industry when they come back needs to be appropriately configured. Independent lighting technical expert input is essential, who have no stake in the outcome and have expert knowledge on both products as pieces of equipment, their suitability, and on the application, the design application and the outcomes. Will they be fit for purpose? Will they deliver good outcomes as well as just be economically viable? Life cycle financial assessment is essential. Don't just get fixated with first costs. And finally, a fit for purpose quality lighting outcome is fundamental. It's not just about the money up front. So, okay, so that's us on that.